Yeah, can you?
Okay, we are
move over
live.
there? Thanks. All right, good morning and welcome to the House Environment Committee. This morning we have a chance to hear from some of the folks who have participated in Serve, Learn, Earn as they're here in the State House today. So welcome, and please, before you speak, just introduce yourselves and maybe say what town you're from. That would be great.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Hugis. I am the Senior Youth Conservation Leadership Coordinator at Audubon, Vermont. And I live in Burlington, but we're here to talk about Serve, Learn, Earn. And Serve, Learn, Earn is a workforce coalition of Audubon, Vermont. Vermont Works for Women, Resource, and Vermont Youth Conservation Corps. And you might be thinking, what do all of those have in common? We all provide opportunities for young folks and people who are entering early career professionals or entry-level jobs, opportunities to have an entry-level job without having much experience, and they get to learn on the job through hands-on projects and hearing from professionals. And then among the network, we also share resources like training. So, if somebody in one of my programs wants to learn about carpentry or get a chainsaw certification, I can reach out to those partners and secure something like that for one of our participants. And I won't take too much time away from our participants because I know that's who we really want to hear from. But at Audubon, I lead all of our youth conservation leadership programs, which serve folks around 14 to that early career professional stage. So whoever our AmeriCorps members are at that time. And some of those participants are junior conservation technicians and interns that are here with us today. The Junior Conservation Technician program runs from January to June, and teenagers are provided an opportunity to learn about careers in conservation through hands-on service and networking with professionals. And so I might turn it over to a few of our JCTs. I'm kind of blocking you, but over here.
Hi, I'm Lily. I live in Huntington, and I have done the JCT program twice. This is my second year. I've been working at Audubon since 8th grade, and I'm a junior now. It's been an eye-opening experience just because I realized that this is the field I want to go into, conservation, and it's given me an opportunity to really realize that I can get a job opportunities through the field that I want to just go with, pursue. And Audubon has really helped me find that.
I'm Kay. I live in Richmond, Vermont. And I'm a sophomore in high school who's been pursuing alternative education for a while. And because of that, I have been supplied the energy and resources to pursue a paid internship as a junior conservation technician with the Audubon. I think it's really important to have access to these environmental entry-level career-based opportunities, especially in a time where our environment is facing a lot of pressure, both by our climate and by our growing infrastructure.
Okay.
My name is Emma. I'm the Youth Conservation Leadership Intern, and I live in Burlington. I am an early career professional, and I moved to Vermont last summer to do a season as a conservation crew leader with the Vermont Youth Conservation Corps. And through that experience, I got hands-on carpentry and crew leading experience, and I really learned that I love working with people and working with young people. So that's what guided me to Audubon, Vermont as the Youth Conservation Leadership Intern. Both VYCC and Audubon have been invaluable experiences to getting my foot in the door, not only in the conservation field in general, but also in Vermont. It is my hopes and dreams to stay in Vermont and to build a career for myself here, and the resources and the networks I've been able to create for myself through these two programs have been really, really amazing.
My name's Chloe. I am also a JCT and I live right here in Montclair. And I joined the JCT program because I really, really want to pursue youth wildlife education, especially in Vermont. And it's a super rare opportunity to find a paid position that gives you like a step up in that kind of career.
My turn. I'm Hank Kelly. I work for the Vermont Youth Conservation Corps as one of their year-round crew leaders. I led their forestry crew this past year and worked with a variety of different project partners from Audubon, Vermont on some private projects on people's land to Vermont State Parks Department, Forest Service, National Park Service, and Vermont Family Forest, as well as a few others. Leading that crew really gave me the opportunity to engage with Vermont's natural communities in a way that I hadn't before. I had gone to college here. I'm not from Vermont, which is, I know, pretty funny to everybody, but I live in Winooski right now, but I went to St. Mike's and then moved away and said, I don't know if I really want to do that. And so I moved back because I had this opportunity here. And it has been really great to be able to keep my foot in the door here and keep these connections that I had built through my collegiate career alive and really expand as I enter this early workforce. I'm only 23, so giving me the chance to work in an early development arena like this has been really, really awesome. I have multiple different certifications, from the game of logging chainsaw certification to wilderness first aid, a few others as well. And it's been really great to learn and grow as a leader and also as a potential person to work in conservation long term. That's kind of the goal here. So
Thank you all for sharing your stories. Do members have questions of any of the participants? Representative Austin?
Yep. So I was on education before I was on environment, and we spent, a lot of time on pathways for learning, and having students kind of mold what their interests were and seek opportunities to practice. So those of you still in high school, I'm just wondering, how do you kind of integrate this experience with your education? Is it through pathways for learning, or do you work in the summer so you're not in school?
Well, I've worked in the summer here too, but usually it's over breaks.
Okay.
So over breaks are long weekends. And typically every Wednesday, we'll have a Zoom meeting with Audubon where we can like grow our knowledge through just like learning about birds
Mhm.
and learning the calls and how to identify them. That's a big thing that we've been doing recently with those.
Yeah, and because we have multiple districts working within this program, we do kind of have to accommodate the 3 times within all of those programs, all of those districts, which can be challenging, but we've got a pretty solid schedule lined up with multiple career experts, external sources, external spaces. And having access to those resources, even for districts, is really awesome.
Do you integrate it into your academics at all? I mean, in terms of research or writing or?
Well, I did write a research paper, and last year when I was in honors bio, I did a suet, like just experiment. So I had gotten this idea from Audubon, and I had put out 4 different types of suet, and I tracked which one got eaten quick enough by different types of birds. And my teacher was like, this is such an interesting and unique thing. I've never like heard about it. And I just thought it was interesting because I was able to like use my Audubon knowledge to complete that
To
program.
integrate it.
Yeah, and then we do need,
Yeah.
we have a little
Bird.
more person to
The
hear.
most.
The chickadees.
Okay.
Thank you all again.
Thank you so
Yeah, thanks so
much.
much for having us.
Yeah.
Appreciate your
You don't have
time.
to, don't go yet. We have Breck Knopf, who's the director of Vermont Youth Conservation Corps. And we have, he's here to clear up some of our confusion around our budget letter that happened yesterday.
Yeah, well, first, thanks to participants. Tough act to follow. It's actually a little funny to see some of our BYCC folks looking clean. Usually I see them, they come out of the field. So Hank, I appreciate your
yeah,
sweatshirt
I
with
wore this
the,
for a reason.
yeah.
Worried if you didn't, if you're too clean.
Representative Austin, one other detail is this summer we're leveraging the dual enrollment legislation to offer high school credit to juniors and seniors who are in the program. We also have partnership with CCVs, so all of our crew leaders get college credit. So
Great.
there's some other.
Wondering how
Yeah.
that integrated
Yeah.
with you.
So yeah, I understand there was confusion as you all were putting the budget letter together. I think what would be easiest if you allow me to just read the letter that I've drafted to Chair Sheldon and others, and I can send that along. It reads, thank you for including support of Serve, Learn, Earn in your budget letter. We understand there was confusion about the current and past funding Serve, Learn, Earn has received from the state budget and are now writing to clarify. For 4 years now, the state legislature has appropriated various levels of funding and support for our workforce development collaboration. The details are in FY21, we received 1.85 million. FY22, we received 1.8 million. FY23, 2.3 million. And in this current fiscal year, 2 million. For the first 3 years, all of the funding was appropriated from one-time funds. In this current fiscal year, we're receiving a mix of base funding and one-time funding. So in this current fiscal year, it's $500,000 of base funding and $1.5 million of one-time funds. This year that we're all working to put together, or FY25, we're requesting that we receive a $2.5 million appropriation and that all of this be base funded. Our understanding is that your intent was to maintain the same level of funding that we've received in this current fiscal year. And if that is your intent, that amount would be $2 million. And I believe your letter indicated support for level funding and 500,000. So you had the level fund right, but the number was different than what is actually in there now. So we're asking that you clarify and hopefully correct your budget letter. And talking with Chair Sheldon, I understand you had an 11, all members were in support of the budget letter, and there may be hesitation to go back and revisit that. And having everyone be on board with a budget letter is no small thing. But if you're open to amending that, that would be really, really helpful. Another option, having talked with Representative Squirrel, who oversees FPR's budget on appropriations, is a simple email to him clarifying the intent. So that would be suffice. So I'm offering 2 administrative strategies. One's a little easier than the other. So, any questions on that?
I think thing that I went back to, we talked about this yesterday, was that how impressed we were with the leverage that the state investment brings.
I think
it was 2 million results in another 8 million of mostly private funds. So just expound on that again.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. What's been really fun and frankly a little exhilarating is to be in conversations with the philanthropic community. The philanthropic community, foundations, individuals, even corporations, want to invest in entities that have a proven track record. And oftentimes they have limited bandwidth to vet and really understand an organization and the outcomes. And so when we are able to approach them and say, we've been in conversation with the legislature, state legislatures have limited funds. There's a whole process by where we come to different committees and we make our case and we prove, demonstrate the return on investments. The philanthropic community looks at that and says, this is a proven entity. They also look at that and they say, it's unique to have a nonprofit coalition really be in close partnership with state funding, with state government. That's not something that happens everywhere. Vermont is unique in the way that there's mutual respect, I think, between the nonprofit sector and the legislature. More to the point, the more funds that are in the base part of the budget, the more that the philanthropic community will look at that and say, there is a certain amount of predictability here that we can match. And so this past year, we've received funding, say, for example, from the Ascendium Fund. That's a 3-year grant. They looked at the fact that we were in the base budget and they said, this is a good investment. So those conversations are real. Everyone's a little different, but it's really helpful when the state supports Serve, Learn, Earn. Is that helpful?
Really helpful. And do members also just further questions for Breck? In terms of programmatic stuff or anything, because we did have a discussion about it yesterday. Oh, great.
I was just curious about the school, how they, with the kind of the pathways program, how they integrated. But they answered my question.
Okay, great. All right, thanks for joining us.
Okay, thanks for attending.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Good
Nice
job, guys.
You all did such a great job.
Yeah, great.
It's impressive.
It
It's
is.
even necessarily ready to do it. So, members, it was I think it was our intention to fund them at what they had previously been funded at, and we were confused about what that number was. I guess I'm just curious what others' thoughts are on this. I would encourage us to let the appropriations committee know that that was our intention. I have no idea what the opportunity or options are for whether it's one time or base, but it's kind of something they're going to decide anyway, but.
And the clarification we got in terms of what was already in the governor's budget?
What's in the governor's is the 500
500 base?
in base,
Base,
Yeah.
okay, and then there was no.
no additional, right?
He's never put it in.
Okay, so we've always had to do that
Yes.
in this group.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So that's a good standard practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be comfortable. I wouldn't not be comfortable. I would encourage the committee to go with our original intent and fund them full $2 million like we got last year.
Is anyone opposed to that change or clarification?
I'm not opposed, Madam Chairman. I'm still slightly confused.
Okay.
I thought Brett said that in 25, they had 2.5 million.
That was their request.
That was the request. I did write request. Okay.
I'm reading my own notes, I guess.
I'm not sure this is the year to ask for more, but I would support every attempt that the appropriations can make to level fund it, essentially. Knowing particularly how many people it affects and the ability to bring in another 8 million.
And the market where it's targeted, the young workers.
Right, the multiple benefits are really notable. And from taking care of our state parks to educating new workforce members. Yeah.
Staying in Vermont. Just so
Yeah.
happy they wanted to stay in Vermont.
But I'm wondering if Mike.
I support your statement, level funding it,
Okay.
like you said, yes.
Okay.
I would just also say, given the history of funding in Vermont, so consistent, but so like year to year, and given that this particular group's really great track record, I think maybe it is time to just move the whole thing into base funding and make that part of our recommendation.
Or at least increase the base funding.
50-50.
Yeah.
Missing.
Yeah. I like that idea, actually. 50-50. Okay. I will send an email and I'll copy all of you and to the chair appropriations and Trevor, who's our liaison. That will say we support level funding and increasing the base to 1 million with one time of $1 million. I mean, if possible, they're going, like I said, they'll do what they want. That's our recommend. Okay, great. Thank you all for that flexibility. Did Michael O'Grady communicate with you about? Oh,
He just sent me 2 documents which I posted.
Okay, great. And is he?
I just walked in the door and
Any minute. So let's look at those posted documents from Michael O'Grady.
distract you, but it'll be interesting to see how much, because since he said that one of the attractive things for the philanthropic organizations to join in is the impact-based funding. And since we're doubling that, it'd be interesting to see if that increases.
It helps, yeah.
You could experiment this.
Yeah, here and here back next year.
Yeah.
How it goes. Yeah. That would be great.
Michael, please join us. We are just pulling up the documents that you've shared. Oh, great. So let's start with page 238.
It's the record ready for, so I'm gonna be winging it a little bit this morning because I haven't had that actually prepare these drafts for walkthrough, but
What does that mean?
so I map out how I do a walkthrough. I have time to do that.
No.
So, do you just want me to walk through changes?
Sure.
So the first change is on page 3. The definition of intentionally added. This is something that you discussed in concept yesterday, but did not see language. So it's the addition of PFAS that serves an intended function in the manufacturing of a product or in the final product and results in PFAS in the final product. It still needs to be known or reasonably ascertainable by the manufacturer, but shall not be considered intentionally added if the processed water used in the manufacture of the product was from a public water system permitted by the agency or a water source that does not violate the maximum contaminant levels for PFAS established under the agency's rules for potable water supply. You asked me to reach out to the agency to see what other programs do they require a manufacturer to certify compliance with the MCL. The answer I received back was the drinking water program, bottled water. All bottled water suppliers need to certify compliance with the MCL.
Sorry, what was this last thing you said about the bottled water suppliers?
You asked me to reach out to the agency to see what programs use certification as a criteria.
Yeah.
And I did, and the response I received was that for bottled water, all bottled water suppliers need to certify compliance with the MCL.
Oh, currently in state.
Mhm.
Good to know. I have a question about the change on line 7, or 6 and 7, from a chemical in a product to PFAS. Because I mean, it was written as a chemical in a product, serves an intended function. It could result. Why did you change that one and not leave it at chemical?
I think you can go either way there. I think the concern was that chemical is not defined here, it's anything. And this is limiting it to the specific substances of concern.
I always thought it was chemical because is there any interaction that could create PFAS?
That's a valid concern.
Particularly true in containers.
Yeah.
Just add fluorine, and that if fluorine binds to some of the things in the plastic, it could cost.
Yeah.
So do you want it to revert?
Yeah.
Should I move on?
Presented by.
Then at the end of the sentence, the PFAS would still stay at the end of the sentence.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Other questions on this section? Okay.
In the definition of juvenile product, page 3, line 21, I looked up to see if pacifiers have PFAS in them, and they do. And so even though including means including but not limited to, I thought you might want to include.
That would be true. Yes. Thank you for doing that. Yeah, right.
Oh, I didn't know they had.
Just mine with arsenic.
Bearable.
Did I move on?
Yes.
On page okay, we're coming to page 7, going to page 8. And this really revolves around how fluorine treated containers are going to be addressed. So in the previous drafts, fluorine treated containers were listed as one of the products for which the manufacturer sale offer for sale was prohibited, in which PFAS has been intentionally added. But there was a conversation I had yesterday with the chair and Rep. Chapin about how to treat the fluorine treated containers. And they've been moved out of this prohibition. And there's a new section related to fluorine treated containers that is on page 10. And so you will see that a manufacturer shall not sell, offer for sale, distribute for sale, or distribute for use in the state a product listed under subdivisions 2494F 1 through 9. So all those products, the foam, the not textiles, the foam, the cleaning products, etc., that does not contain intentionally added, So this is applying to the cleaning products that don't have intentionally added PFAS, but that is sold, offered for sale, distributed for use in the state in a fluorine treated container. So your cleaning product is PFAS free. It does not have an intentionally added PFAS in it, but the container does. That product is prohibited.
With a different date.
With 2020.
The container is prohibited.
Yes, well.
They could put it in a different container.
Yes, they could put it in a different container. And then it shall not apply to the sale of reused product or used products on page 10, 16 to 19 sale, offer for sale, distribution for sale, distribution for use. I do need to look at the effective date of that. Don't know what I did with that. Yes, that you're right. I did, the effective date for that is July 1, 2027. Whereas the prohibition on the other consumer products is January 1, 2026.
Aligning with those products prohibitions.
Yeah.
Okay. Representative Austin.
So if that container is used as a public water system permitted pursuant to chapter 56, or a water source that does not violate the maximum containment levels he has, then it won't be considered intentionally added.
That is correct. The intentionally added definition would apply here too.
Okay.
And then on page 11, lines 1 through 3, still fluorine treated containers. Beginning on January 1, 2030, a manufacturer shall not manufacture, sell, offer for sale, distribute for sale, distribute for use in the state any consumer product in a fluorine treated container.
Representative Bartholomew.
I think this is pretty clear, but so it's a ban on any container.
Fluorine treated container.
Any product.
To the consumer product. Now, there might be some
pesticides and some of the other ones you've heard about.
Well, I was just gonna actually say, there's gonna be some distinctions. For example, a restricted use pesticide is not a consumer product, right?
Yep.
And so that could still be sold in a fluorine treated container. You cannot buy that unless you are certified, trained, and registered.
What are other states doing with that? Do you know?
I do know that the first part of this section is very similar to other states. The second part of the section, I don't know the long-term ban. I have to look up.
But on containers that have pesticides?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, good. Well,
Oh, on containers that have pesticides, I think most states are actually waiting for EPA to act on that. Because EPA is taking measures to try to phase out fluorinated containers for pesticides.
okay, thank you.
The certificate of compliance section is the same. The violations section is the same. Section 2 is highlighted because it was from the previous draft and was changed. But this is just incorporating what was in Act 131 into this act. Remember, the Act 131 consumer products provisions are no longer in Act 131. They are in this draft, in this bill. So that moves the regulated PFAS for the purposes of textiles from 100 to 50 parts per million in 27, page 12, line 17. And then on page 12, line 18, this is the prospective definition change to apparel that incorporates outdoor apparel for severe wet conditions in 2028. And then on page 14, the last draft took out the reports on complex durable goods and food, PFAS in those two categories, and I was asked to reinsert them. The dates are the dates that they are because when I reached out to Matt about why he had these dates, it's because that's what the time frame for other states. And he said something along the lines of, if you tell me to report before then, I'm going to tell you that you're going to have to wait until this date.
There wouldn't be anything to report.
Right, there
So
won't
it's
be.
giving these other states time to implement policies that then we would hear back on.
So on or before January 15, 2033, ANR provides a recommendation to you on how to address PFAS and complex durable goods. The definition of complex durable goods is what you saw from the Act 131 report and that first draft that circulated. Page 15, sub B, on or before January 15, 2033, the Secretary of Ag reports to you with a recommendation on how to address PFAS in food. Food is the state definition, which includes food and drink suitable for humans and chewing gum. Then page 16, this is the effective dates, the reports I just discussed. How other states are doing the broad regulatory program, and then complex durable goods and food. They take effect July 1, 2025. PFAS and consumer products follows the Act 131 date for most of the products, January 1, 2026, except the new products of cleaning products and dental floss, and now how you're treating fluorine treated containers take effect on July 1, 27. The permanent ban of 2030 is built into the section and is not in this effective date. And then section 1 shall supersede those provisions of Act 131 that conflict with the provisions of this act. And those are really the changes.
Representative Pritchard.
So on page 12,
the changing of 100 parts per million to 50 parts per million, is that specific to the items banned?
It is specific to textiles and textile articles. You will see that on page.
And I guess why did we change that? What was the reason behind it?
So you weren't changing anything. That was actually an Act 131 from last year. It started off, the ban on textiles is, it's based on what is defined as regulated PFAS.
Okay.
And regulated PFAS starts out as 100 parts per million within the textile or textile article. And then it goes down to 50 parts per million in 27.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I still don't understand what these, when things are crossed out, I thought it was a.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. Because even though it's existing law, it looks new here because remember, you repealed all of Act 131 related to consumer products and PFAS, and you're moving all of that into this bill. So it's all in this bill instead of cross-referencing what's in Act 131. So it looks new, even though it's not. And I understand. Okay.
Members have questions? Representative North.
Pretty sure this is handled, but just the way the container thing is worded now, it wouldn't affect containers that don't contain a product, like if I want to buy a gas can. That would not be affected by this.
That's correct. That's correct.
I want my gas cans fluoridated.
But in
to break down.
But in 2030, it would.
Right, because it's designed to carry a consumer product.
And is gasoline a consumer product?
Yes.
That's not sold that way.
Well, let's look at that language. I see what you're saying.
Okay.
Yes, it's any consumer product, so it would still, the empty container would still be allowed.
Okay, where are you on the?
Page 11. It says, shall not manufacture, sell, offer for sale, distribute for sale, or distribute for use in the sale, any consumer product. So the ban is on the consumer product when it's in a fluorine treated container. You can, that's,
But we're banning the containers.
well, that's, I think you need to clarify that. You can have to say, no person shall sell a fluorine treated container or a consumer product in a fluorine treated container.
Even in 2030, you don't think they're gonna have a man?
Well, when they do, we can make that.
Yeah, right, we got to.
Right.
Need some problems.
With what was mentioned, how was it in the Act 131 report?
Act 131, it would have been the treated container.
Yeah.
Any container. Regardless of the product.
Yeah.
Representative Bartholomew. Representative Bartholomew.
I just wanted to express my appreciation because this was pretty complicated before, and your efforts to move all of this into one area, making it more understandable. I find I'm really appreciative of that, of your efforts. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we're gonna have to talk about containers. So, and maybe just get more information. I think, like understanding if the report recommended it, there must be alternatives or others. So I'd like to follow up a little on that thread before we make a decision for a next draft.
I'll put it in language and just flag it. It'll be color coded blue or gray, depending on if I can get a printer to work in the building, which I currently cannot.
We know that feeling. We've actually had, we have our IT person here because our IT is so precarious. For which we are grateful. Okay, any further questions on this draft? Thank you. Next up, I think you brought us 3-acre language, which I'm guessing is more the stuff you were less choreographed on.
Pardon me?
The 3-acre language, are you?
I have it, but I don't have a print version that I like to work off.
Let me see if I can get one.
I'll try to work from the web.
I've been having, let's see. Let me just see, writing on my way here. I mean, it went. Check the 30s copier. Michael, so I just sent one to the printer and Annika's gonna go.
Okay.
It was up there, but we can begin.
Sure. So this is Michael Grady again with Fletcher Council. You should be looking at on your website, draft request 25-0967, draft 2.1, February 27th, date 8:54, timestamp. And this continues to be your committee bill with regard to addressing issues with regard to stormwater regulation in the state. The first change on page 1 going on to page 2 is that language that clarifies that when a municipality assumes the full legal responsibility for a stormwater system, the municipality may assess those municipal impact fees, notwithstanding the requirement to go to a citywide vote for a special assessment or have everyone that's assessed agree. Provided that the majority of the property owners consent and the impact fee is assessed as a fair apportionment to the user of the cost of the improvement. Section 2, let me just interject here. I asked the agency to look over the language last night. I got back their edits this morning. I made their edits 20 minutes ago. They have a point that there needs to be a specific additional change to the, thank you, to the clean water surcharge language. I don't know what they were referencing. So I didn't have time to contact them about what they were referencing. So there's potentially an additional change to the language amending the sunset of the clean water surcharge. Just to put that on your, I haven't tracked that down yet. So the next change is section 6. You might remember the original draft had a local communities implementation grant fund that would have provided financing grants to municipalities to help with the financing of compliance with the 3-acre for orphan systems or other residential subdivisions. The agency was saying, oh, there's these existing programs out there that can help, and why create another spoke on the wheel. And so what they've proposed in the developed lands implementation program, they are striking grant. I don't know why they are striking grant. Maybe they want additional flexibility in the type of financing that they can provide, but that's what they're proposing. And it would provide financial assistance to persons who are required to obtain a permit to implement regulatory requirements. I think that's an important concept. These are people that are regulatorily required to comply. Generally, the state doesn't do that. But here you are giving financing to people who are regulatorily required to comply with the permit.
But the underlying language is grants or financing to persons who are required. So that's already there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so we're, okay. You're just noting it's unusual, but it's not like we're making that change.
it's unusual that you give money that you require people to do to require people to get a permit. The only
Yeah.
people that really do get that right now are the farmers.
Oh.
And otherwise, you basically say, you can get a loan from us, but we're not going to give you a grant.
But the language,
Right, it says financial assistance. I don't,
no, it says that now, but the previous language said,
grants or financing.
so it was already there, is only my only.
Yeah, yeah.
Representative Tagliavia.
Doesn't this wording make us the company store? You have to do this, and oh, by the way, we'll finance it for you?
Well, that's kind of what Michael's bringing up.
That's kind of what I'm saying. It's pretty, it's not normal for an A&R program. It's already an existing program. This is an existing program. But
The grant, listen,
Go ahead.
correct me if I'm wrong, when somebody writes a grant, that is something that is not
Pay back.
paid back.
Well, so we can follow up with DEC on this. I know they brought up the Clean Water Revolving Fund, so I don't know if that's their intention and that it would be paid back. So,
I didn't have time to like vet out why they're making these changes. I think that that's a point that you all should discuss.
yeah.
And so it would be available for financing those projects that are required to get a 3-acre permit and for a permit renewal under 1264H2 for a discharge to a stormwater impaired water that was permitted under an individual permit, but didn't incorporate the 2002 manual. And they referenced about the stormwater impaired waters and trying to bring them in as well. Those waters are already subject to the 3-acre. So should I move on?
Yes.
They're also proposing to amend the municipal stormwater implementation grant program. Again, they're changing grant to financial assistance. They're striking the requirement that the clean water service provider has to be meeting its annual goals in order for the grant to move. And they are saying that the grant is available to those municipalities to comply with an impervious surface 3-acre when they assume full legal responsibility for the stormwater system. So this is an incentive for municipalities to work with their 3-acre subdivisions to come into compliance. They can get a grant to do that, provided the municipality assumes full legal responsibility, which is similar to what the local community implementation fund that was in the original bill would do. Again, the question is, what is financial assistance versus grants?
Representative Pritchard.
Well, shouldn't the word grant then be struck from line 16 at the beginning?
Yes, it is. And I was probably just moving too fast. I literally made these changes 40 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Representative Austin.
So the people who have already paid to take care of their funding, can so they're out of this, they cannot get this grant?
Well, I mean, that's an interesting question. I think you heard the other day that only 3 had actually gone through everything. So those who are remaining, whatever, 623, will still have an opportunity to apply. This program is really just when the municipality assumes responsibility, and that's going to be important with the orphans and some of those subdivisions where the physical constraints are really either driving the costs incredibly high or prevent anything from being done. One thing that is not in here, and that the agency mentioned that they may be amenable to, is waiving the impact fee if you've done everything under the manual that you can. And that's not in here. And that's a discussion, I think. Because Neil said that, and I didn't make that up. Neil said that, and I think you want to pursue that.
But we're talking about the municipal stormwater implementation program.
Right.
So that would pertain, what you just said would pertain.
If the municipality assumes the responsibility for that residential subdivision and then they go out to the manual and they do the manual, I bet you the municipality would prefer not to have to pay the stormwater.
Yeah.
Page 6, section 7, the change here is moving from tier 1 to tier 2, that available assistance for municipalities that assume full legal responsibility. It's, as we just saw, it's going into the municipal stormwater implementation program, and grant should probably be struck there as well. And it's providing that at least $1 million annually shall be appropriated for those grants or whatever the financial assistance is.
I'm sorry, what page are you on?
I am on page 7 at the bottom, line 17 through 20.
Lost.
So now this is tier 2. No longer tier 1, tier 2, but there is at least $1 million annually that will have to go into this program. And with that said, you can go to section 8 because this is in fiscal year 2027. There's going to be 5 million from the Clean Water Fund into the Municipal Stormwater Implementation Program. This reference doesn't say grant, for cost of complying with permitting requirements under 1264 C7, which is the 3-acre, when the municipality assumes full legal responsibility. So in 2027, 2028, you're probably going to have between $5 and $6 million in that fund for municipalities that assume legal responsibility to help their subdivisions comply with 3-acre. The rent rates language about utilities and how they charge or set their rate is not changed. Then section 10 is the study committee on creation of regional stormwater utilities. It's created to review the feasibility and benefit of creating those regional stormwater utility districts to facilitate implementation and compliance with the water quality laws of the state. It's composed of the following: the commissioner of DEC or designee, a representative of the league appointed by the speaker, a representative of an MS4 community appointed by the committee on committees, a representative of a municipality with a population under 2,500 persons appointed by the Speaker of the House. So you get 3 municipal representatives, somebody that the league puts forward. Maybe they want to put forward one of their policy people, or they appoint somebody from their membership, somebody from an MS4, which are usually the large municipalities, somebody from a small community. And I didn't really know where to set the small threshold.
Very small.
2,500 is pretty small. Then, so that you have those 3. And then there's going to be a representative of the Green Mountain Water Environment Association. They usually represent the municipal treatment, water, stormwater, drinking water. So you'll get some expertise. And a commercial or industrial business owner subject to the 3-acre. So somebody with larger impervious surface tracts, probably appointed by the Committee on Committees, a representative of an environmental advocacy organization appointed by the Speaker of the House. One person that I didn't put on here that I thought about, some resident living in a 3-acre community. But I don't like to create even numbered committees.
Yeah. So can we revisit this person from a municipality
Yeah.
with a population under 2,500? There are a lot of municipal representatives on here. Is that a substitute spot for your person? And then it's not tied to the size of the town, which is a bit arbitrary.
Okay. Okay.
It's important to have a small municipality representing somebody who hopefully would have some sort of roads experience, stuff like that, dealing with culverts and stormwater, stuff like that.
Well, one thing I want to talk about, I think the target audience, I mean, municipal roads are already dealt with for stormwater. So the purpose of creating these regional stormwater utility districts is more to address private development on, oh, well, go ahead.
I think there's like some consultant term for this. Like there's like multiplicities or whatever they call it. It's like you can find ways to save for both the municipal requirements and the residential requirements. For example, let's use municipal roads. It's like you might need certain types of equipment, especially on dirt roads, to comply with the municipal roads. And instead of every town having to buy that, the utility buys it and manages it, and it takes away a burden on the municipal roads budget to have that piece of equipment. How many of your towns have road graders? You know, it's like those things, they work like every third day. And right. And so, but then yes, the utility, if you give them ability to assess and collect a fee, they will be able to do things like replacing culverts, which is not a residential, it's a road thing.
I think it would be helpful to go through the powers and duties of the study committee, and that'll flesh out
Sure.
where we're headed here.
So they're going to review the current statutory authority for development of regional stormwater utility districts, because it's possible right now, comprised of multiple municipalities, including potential disincentives or obstacles to utility formation. And that means things like you got to get your municipalities to vote to approve it.
Is this language from DEC or from you or from both?
Then you're going to propose how the state could implement a regional stormwater utility approach that will allow municipalities to assign liability or responsibility for compliance with water quality laws to the utility, including how a utility could assume responsibility for the permitting of property subject to the 3-acre permit. And then they're going to recommend whether and how to authorize a regional stormwater utility to assess fees or charges to residents and businesses within the district, propose how the district could be eligible to use the revolving loan funds, which I think is a big thing. Right now, the way the municipality is addressed under the SRF, it probably would preclude them. Recommend whether statute should be amended to implement any of the recommendations of the study committee. I have to stop on the assistance. If there's no legislators on a study committee, I am not supposed to staff the study committee. So the staffing assistance is from the Department of Environmental Conservation. The report comes back to you January 15, 2026. Neil said that's an ambitious state, but that's what he proposed with its findings and any recommendations for legislative action. Commissioner is the chair, calls the first meeting. Majority of the membership is a quorum. Members of the study committee that aren't governmental employees get their per diem and reimbursement of expenses. The study committee ceases to exist on March 1st, 2026. I'd like to give committees a little bit more time than their deadline for a report because they don't always hit the deadline. And then you want them to come in and actually represent the committee in front of you. And if they don't exist, they don't, it's just good to keep them alive for a few more weeks after the report.
Representative Pritchard.
So I'm back on page 7. Just trying to understand, there's a couple of questions. I'm assuming that the $1 million annually and above it on line 7, the $500,000 is part of that 5 million figure?
No. So, and it's a good question because what you're not seeing is the lead in to what 3989E is. And 3989 is the Clean Water Fund boards and then the priorities and recommendations that the Clean Water Fund board makes to the governor and the General Assembly each year. And when they make their recommendation, they're supposed to prioritize certain types of activities and what they fund. So that's what 1389E is, the priorities they're supposed to address. And as the first priority, you'll see on page 6, line 13, you'll see all of those programs, which are generally for the non-regulatory programs. These are going out there to try to fund those projects to clean up water where somebody's not already regulatorily required to do it. And as part of that on page 7, you'll see that there are required or caps in one place for the water quality enhancement grant can't exceed $5 million in any clean water budget recommendation. And then caps for and a minimum for partners doing water quality basin planning is 500,000. So that's tier 1. That's tier 1, all non-regulatory programs. Page 7, line 8, you're dropping down to tier 2. These are regulatory programs. That $1 million on page 7, line 17 through 20, that's going to be a new minimum for the Municipal Stormwater Implementation Grant Program for assistance to municipalities assuming responsibility of subdivision.
Okay, why is it made as a minimum?
To make sure that the money goes out. You can set that amount however you want. But
To me, this reads, it must be at least $1 million.
That's correct. That's
Representative Austin.
Just because I don't know how these study committees go, that's 6 months, it seems like, for them to do this work. Is that realistic? They can get this work done and the report out in that time frame?
I've seen committees do more in less time, and I've seen committees not be able to do less in way, way more time. So I think that really depends on who's on the committee and how committed they are to coming up with this structure. It's a viable concern.
And DEC proposed timeline will be any of the members. I'm trying to find the members again, but they will be. Page are the members on. And
We're on 10.
yeah. Many of them are going to be doing this as professionals or paid people. It's very different.
Uh-huh. And we never put a start date, like we will start that
Yeah,
first.
we often
meeting.
actually.
The first meeting.
Yeah, I've said this in other committees. I don't know when to put a start date this year because I don't know when you're gonna leave.
Fine.
And
Not encouraging.
And most of the time, I can predict you're gonna leave by June. But this year, I don't know about that.
I don't think we don't need to create that reality. We can put that date in here for right now. But I want to go back to the members of the committee. and the thinking behind, I mean, what's the thinking of the small town from like the 2,500 that you picked? I know you said it was, you know,
So Neil proposed somebody from the league and somebody from an MS4 community. And that didn't, in my opinion, guarantee somebody from a small. And that's always, when you put somebody from a big on there, the smalls all want to be on there. So that's what I recommended. But it does create 3 municipal appointees or appointees representing municipal interests.
and the expertise, I mean, so the expertise that we're getting, I understand the MS4 experience, that's invaluable because they're doing this already. And the league, I guess, is a policy perspective or a holistic representation of, to the extent that they do that, it's a representation of the league. Yeah. Not sure what the role of the league is on this.
Could we make role of what?
The League of Cities and Towns.
To me, the league may play an important role regarding how these are formed. And kind of advising on just the general kind of ballots, elections, because you're going to have to do those things to form these districts.
I think also in this building, we're having multiple conversations on creating essentially maybe sub-regional government entities. And I mean, I know this, I'm just sort of thinking out loud here, but it does seem like we should be tracking the various, there's proposals on the walls, but there's also work on, regional level, county level government and our GovOps committees. And if all of that went forward, that would already create the frame for something like a regional stormwater district, right? So just.
Right. I've always said that if I was ledge council in Maine, my job would be a lot easier because all I would do is like the county shall do this. And then I'd be like, done.
The county came in and.
That's what Maine does.
Yeah.
And Maine even has all those unincorporated counties. So they say the county shall adopt their own rules, or if it doesn't, this happens. So that scares the pants off of the municipalities that are incorporated and have their own rules. So they adopt their own rules and they do it quick. And then nobody cares about the unincorporated town because nobody lives there.
I'm gonna just take a moment and check in on scheduling with Annika. Did we hear back from folks we asked if they could come at 1?
Yes.
They can come at 1?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to be sure we wrap up by noon, because we're gonna actually, folks who can be here, who are planning to be here, we're gonna come back at 1 today, not 1:15, because we have witnesses who have time constraints. I understand Representative Pritchard cannot be here, but we're going to carry on. I don't think we're going to vote on PFAS with a member absent, but I do want to check in on if everyone's planning to be here on Tuesday after town meeting week. Okay, so no one's planning not to be here Tuesday after town meeting week. Good. Okay, this is great. Thank you. I know that you did this on short notice and you've given us great stuff to work with. And we will see you again this afternoon. So.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
What's at 1 o'clock?
At 1 o'clock will be the 1:15 testimony on H238, which is another cookware representative and then senior scientist from NRDC to help us find our way with fluoropolymers. And then we are hearing from Charity Clark on 238 also at 1:45.
Good. I might be a little late. I have to draft another bill over lunch. So I'll be here probably like 1:10. That's all right.
Oh, but you're planning to join us?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Great. Thank you. Good to know. All right. Yeah, Representative Austin.
Just that, there was an email of Dr. Levine who got about the piles and the avian flu.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know if we needed, just that was enough or.
To our attention. Great. Thank you.